Welcome to this live stream of the Dallas Opera and the Heart Institute for Women Conductor. The Heart Institute was created in 2015 to try to correct the unbalance of gender in our classical music industry between women and men. This is a theme that was not so popular yet in 2015. This is a theme that is now very, very important in our industry. And I must say, the Art Institute, has been very important in changing the views of many of the presenters on this action that is very important. And a lot of our alumni are now having very important careers. We have had more than 500 applicants over the years. And we have every year 6 or 4 participants. We have Zoom meetings with very important people of the industry. And then for 9 days in Dallas, those participants can prepare a concert with orchestra, with singers, with public. But they also meet with artist managers, with presenters, directors of opera companies or orchestras, and they also meet with people of PR and so on. And it's a very, very exciting program. It has been very enlightening for us. And I must say, all the teachers who have participated in the program have been absolutely transformed by this experience. Today, we are talking about management. So we have our 4 participants of the year who, of course, are wondering how to get to management. That's the question that's in their mind. And maybe we're going to answer that question. And to help navigate this, we have 3 artist managers who are very important from different horizons in our industry. So I'm going to introduce you to the various managers we have here with us. So we have first, I'm going to start with you, Anna de Archuleta. Sorry if I am mispronouncing it. So Anna worked first with Bernard Usan, with Usan Management. Then she has also had her own agency, ADA. I think the 2 agencies merged, and now Anna, and it's going to be a very interesting perspective, is managing her own venue and is a presenter herself. Is that a fair presentation, Anna?
Absolutely. A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Then Charlotte Lee, who also created a very important agency, Primo Artist. And Charlotte has, I would say it's probably what you call a boutique agency. It's a smaller agency. It's not one of those big agencies. You probably have several managers, but you have a few singers, very important conductors, and it's a beautiful, beautiful agency. I would say you have more conductors or singers in your agency, Charlotte?
We have conductors, instrumentalists, and composers, 13 artists on our management roster, and then we have 45 artists on our promotional side, so public relations and social media, which includes singers and institutions like Lincoln Center, quartets, ensembles, and artists.
Okay, great. So you are part of this new trend where an agency also does PR for the party. Yeah. And then last but not least, my friend Joe Fried, who happened to be one of my managers too, and who is in one of those big agencies, Askonas Holt, one of the most prestigious agencies. How many artists does Askonas Holt represent?
I think it would be unfair for me to answer, but it certainly is. It's not a boutique agency, but if you delve slightly deeper into the agency, you could say it's made up of lots of little boutique teams. So it's yes, we have quite a long list of artists, but we also have a lot of staff and hopefully still provide that sort of boutique style of management when needed.
Okay, that sounds like a little defensive, but that's that's great. And somehow you are also associated now with Opus 3, but as you were saying, you have several pockets. Okay, so those young, brilliant conductors are at the start of their career, and even their careers, it's fair to say, needs to be started. So the main question they are having is, how do I get to management? But I would like to be maybe a little more provocative, and I would like to tell them, listen, you probably need a management, but having a management doesn't mean you are going to have a career. And I would even say I have been now doing this for 35 years, or maybe even a little more, 40 years. I have had so many managers. I went through, like all artists do, you change managers. In the time, it's very rare that a manager takes an artist's full career. And management relevance has changed a lot. In the past, if you were chosen by one of those big agencies, you would get a good chance to start a career. And if the talent was there, the authority of a Ronald Wilford could be strong enough to call an orchestra and say, you have to take that person as a music director. This is not happening anymore. With the internet, with social media, if as a presenter, as a music director, I want to hire someone, I don't need to call Charlotte or Joe. I just go online and I check one of two videos and I make up my mind. I can join anybody through a very quick email. Artistic directors, presenters are usually quick at answering because they know it's part of their influence. So Charlotte, Anna, Joe, are you relevant? What's the role of an agent today? Do you still need an agent? What's that? Who wants to take that first question?
I'm very happy to go first. And look, I think you'd expect me to say yes. I think we're very relevant. I would say now more than ever, given that the internet is flooded with content, and content that often shouldn't necessarily be taken at face value. I would say that and of course we may talk about AI at some point in this discussion. I would hope that the artist manager is one of the last jobs that doesn't get taken over by computers. But anyway, we can get on to that. I would say, look, as ever, it's been about guiding people through the industry, helping them. Strategy is important, but actually supporting, promoting, and guiding careers so that they have as long a career as possible. Because ultimately, it's very easy to be the next best thing and to be invited everywhere, and often without any guidance of, well, actually, this is something you may not want to accept, and here's the reason why. And if you just go where you're invited and you're encouraged to take on certain repertoire that may not be right for you, it's quite likely that you won't get reinvited. And there's a risk that if you don't get reinvited, that door is shut. It can be for the rest of your career. So there are pitfalls that you could fall into, and I'm hoping that what the three of us do would navigate those complications for you. We do the slightly less glamorous things, but just as important, we negotiate all of your contracts. If there's any legal oversight that needs doing, we can look after that. And of course, as Charlotte was saying, the marketing, the promotion is fundamental today, more than it ever has been. And we also help with important things like financial management and planning and budgeting and so it really, the role of a manager today can be as much as you want it to be. I believe. I think we all need to adapt, otherwise it becomes a very stale industry, and I think we're all each in our own way trying to adapt. But we certainly have to be careful that we're constantly offering new and exciting things for our artists.
Okay, brilliant. Anna, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I want to, I want to sort of take a couple of steps back because I do want to clarify what is it that the agent does. I think that it's sort of a mystery. I think there is around a lot of young artists, there's this vision that the agent makes the career, like you said, Emmanuel, and that once you cross that threshold, you're pretty much set. And the truth of the matter is that, like any business, as an artist, you are an institution by itself, and you will need support at some point. There's only so far you can get without a team that is going to support you in moving that career forward. So hopefully you get so busy that you will need support in managing when are you going to be in this place or this other place, and who's going to handle the logistics of that. The manager, like Joe said, has taken a very evolved place in the industry. Many of us have been in the industry for 20, 30 years. We know a lot of people. We have the pulse of the industry at a sort of higher level. We hover over a lot of institutions. So we kind of have the different taste of the presenter. We also know how the acoustic sounds in the halls because we've been there to see our clients. We can give you information as to what to expect when you get to that place. And we open doors in many ways to get to know new people. So there is a place. I think the definition of a manager that was 50, 40 years ago when Harry Breslin was representing is just a no. It's a different thing. I think it requires that the artist is very involved in their own career. You don't hand your career out and say, okay, I'm out. You tell me when I have to go somewhere. You have to be proactive and build relationships. And we take that work that you do in the space and we just amplify it. So I do think there's a relevancy to in an art to what artist managers do. It's just a matter of how do we evolve? I'm sure Charlotte has evolved quite a bit in her practice as well.
Charlotte?
All excellent points that Joe and Anna make here. I'd like to say, going back to Emmanuel's point, when you have a manager, you don't necessarily have a career, but you can have a career without having a manager. And I think that the misnomer that people assume about management is I need management to have a career. And once I get management, I will get a career. But it doesn't work that way. Management, like Anna says, is about amplifying what's there. So what has to be there as a fundamental is talent and engagements. So when we sign artists, we don't sign artists with zero number of engagements. The artists that we have signed in the past have anywhere from 20 to 120 engagements in their diary, depending on if they're young and starting out, in which case even those already have 20 contracts, whether it's in an assistant role, doing family concerts and doing regional orchestras or opera houses. We all want to work from something. So that's just something to keep in mind. You have to be already having the connections, the invitations, and building something so that it can be amplified even more. That's where management come in. I have a good friend, Bernhard Karras, who wrote a book called Be Your Own Manager. And when I was in the Heart Institute in person, last time I came to speak here, I held up the book in the classroom and I said, write this down, order it, and read it. Because anyone who doesn't have management shouldn't be sitting around. They need to read this book. They need to take the initiative in being the manager of their career. Because as Anna says, you are an institution. You're a brand and you need to be taking charge on every single level, not just artistic, but marketing, strategy, communications, the professionalism of how to respond to emails within 12 hours, how to craft them, how to act backstage, off stage, at a dinner. And these are all things that one needs to be mindful of. And it's all a path and progress that works towards something. It just doesn't change overnight because management comes in out of the blue.
Okay, the very beautiful, important, and the three of you very, very eloquent. But basically what you are telling us is, well, we won't take conductors if they don't have already some concerts, what they've done with concerts. And those young, brilliant conductors, they say, well, I mean, how can I start this? So what is going to make you take or not take a young conductor? And what can a young conductor do, although he has no management, to be busy enough or to have enough staff to interest you? What are the concrete things they can do? You mentioned, well, doing your own ensemble and so on. How do you start this and not get into the paradox of I need a management to have a career, I need a career to have management?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can speak from our point of view, from Askonas Holt's point of view. And I also sit on our scouting committee for conductors, and probably like my colleagues here, there are many approaches that we have all the time, and it would be disrespectful of us not to go through all of them, not to watch the material. But I'm afraid to say that it is very clear from within a minute who which of these young artists would make it, as it were, to the next stage. We have a fellowship program, which I know many other agencies do. It's nothing new, but we've invested a lot of time and energy into trying to build this fellowship program so that we are able to slightly take, if gamble is the right word, we're able to act on our instinct more as to taking on an artist and in more of an advisory role. And what we would do, we would mentor, we would advocate for them, we would help them with repertoire, with programming, preparing for competitions, advice on marketing, etc., etc. And the kind of people we take on as fellows are men and women that have shown real drive and ambition. They don't have to have lots of dates in the diary. If anything, that would already place them in the wrong side of what we're discussing here. We like people who are just rather raw. We don't want to take people on as fellows who are the finished article, because that's not what the fellowship is about, and that's not what young artists. I don't personally believe that young artists should be the finished article until much later. It's something, as a conductor, you're learning all of your life, I think. So often, from a very practical point of view, they will send us materials, and if they don't have materials, that's also fine. Lots of people don't have expensive video material, so we would go and meet them. We would try and have a discussion with them on Zoom or whatever suits them, and just get to know them a bit better. And often they have some connections within the industry. And all of us, I believe, as Anna was saying, one of our, I think, greatest strengths is our contacts and our relationships. And we can use those contacts and relationships, and sooner or later you can build up a picture about someone. It's a bit of detective work, but it becomes quite clear whether that artist is someone that we should really take very seriously.
Right, and I would like to rebound on one of the points you made, Joe, in passing. It's about a lot of in these careers, and it's true for conductors, but also for singers or directors. It's not only the raw talent, it's how much you want it and how much dedication you have into it. And there are thousands of fantastic singers and maybe conductors there who didn't make it and who had all it took in terms of talent, knowledge to make it. And there are singers who had just this of a voice, almost no voice, and who have very important careers out of dedication. It's not enough. You need to have your craft developed and your skills developed, but without that dedication, it's not going to work. My first advice most of the time when someone comes to me and says, I want to do this career, I say, don't do this career. It's horrible. It's difficult. And if you still want to do it, then you are the right person. But you have to know that. You have to be ready to go through rejection. Rejection is happening to all of us. So we are live, so I'm not going to give you names, but some of the names that everybody knows in the street, and they are in their late 60s or 70, they are still struggling to get more of this, and they are not happy with their career. Very rare a real artist is going to be satisfied with the career, and there is this divide between the career and the artist's development. An artist is made of vulnerability, insecurities, is craving for some kind of love and recognition. A conductor is supposed to be that stature, that note, that is very confident. That's why you have few conductors who are real artists. And you need to be able to navigate all of this. I think to go back to the question, which is what are the things that you can do to get the attention of an agent? Well, they mentioned, creating an ensemble, doing competitions, showing that you are committed to this. And so that character is going to show through the initiative you have taken, and these initiatives are going to be instrument for you to make a case in front of agents. Anna, anything you want to add to that aspect of the question?
I would like to add a couple of things, because I see from my perspective and as a presenter, I get approached a lot by artists that are managed or not managed with a project that they want to pitch to a small organization. So there's a sense of entrepreneurship that while you wait for a manager to come, you network and you partner with colleagues, with ensembles, with composers. Composers are very important right now. They're creating a lot of new works, and they always want to do workshops for their new works. And that's a great way to try something new and keep making connections. And a lot of that is supported by grants specifically to that composer. So it's not dependent on the presenter, but you building your resume by working on new music as well. You need to go to conferences and go to festivals and show your face in many different places. You have no idea how many times we as agents go to see performances and concerts, and we meet a lot of artists that are there, and we network, we have a drink with them, we get to know them, you follow up with them and say, hey, can I send you some materials? Can I have a meeting with you? Agents and managers love to give their opinion. We all love to give our opinion. So if you approach us with a question that leads us to talk about how much do we know about repertoire and contacts, you will make a connection with us. And then you follow up, and then you establish that relationship. I start representing conductors on a temporary basis. I see something personal with them, and then I say, hey, there's a position here, let me try you out, let me send you out for that and see how that goes. But that's informal. Like Joe said, I love the fellowship. That's the same thing that I've been doing for 20 years, but I do it informally, and that's why I build those relationships. And then when I feel like there's enough there, I'm like, okay, let's do it, let's just make the big announcement. But it requires a lot of interaction with a lot of people in the industry to build your brand.
Right. Okay. Ladies, Valerie, Anna, Yan, and CJ, do you have, we will have a private session a little later, but do you have some questions at this point to our panel?
Yes, I actually have a question about how to approach a manager without appearing to be too pushy, or you know what I mean? Like you want to get to know this person, you want to investigate who they are and see if it's the right fit. How is the best way to start the first date to get to know a manager?
Well, from my point of view, I think there's nothing wrong. I mean, pushy, that's an interesting word. In some, trying to echo what Emmanuel was saying, having a sense of pushiness is fine, because you need to get ahead of everyone else. It's in such an oversaturated industry that we all work in. And as Emmanuel said, if someone asked me what my advice would be at saying I want to be a young conductor, or I want to be a conductor, I'd say, are you sure? And if you're absolutely sure and you've exhausted every other career possibility within reason, then I'd say it's a wonderful, wonderful career to do. But just please have a thick skin, and please understand that if you're writing to prospective management companies, just understand that you won't always get a reply. That's first and foremost. It's not because we're being rude or we're being disrespectful. It's just because there is so much on everyone's plate. So I would say writing an email to a specific person rather than a sort of generic email address for a management company is a absolute must. Because we certainly, if we get an email to info@Askonas Holt, it already shows that the person in question is not really doing enough research. You can see all the information you need to see, mostly about managers in our business, is on websites. You can see which artists they manage, and you can begin to navigate yourself towards the kind of artist that you feel you've got an affinity to, and then you look who the manager is, and that's a good way of starting and writing an email. And if you're in a certain city and you say, look, I'd love to pick your brains, could we meet for a coffee? I know that myself and my colleagues, I'm sure that Anna and Charlotte would do the same. We would not say no. I would be very, very happy to hear and have a discussion with you. So be bold. It's okay to contact us out of the blue. We're all on the same team here. We're all in a very small industry that needs to survive and it needs to grow. And we'd be crazy to turn people away at this stage. If you want to have a discussion, and you've shown some drive and ambition, then in my book, that's a very positive thing.
Mm-hmm. So all of you have managed very different personalities. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It's about a match of talent on both sides and on personalities on both sides. So how can a young conductors evaluate if an agency is the right agency for him or for her? So we have seen, what you're looking for in those young artists, but what are the questions those young artists should ask you, manager, about your managing style? And for instance, I have seen some of those very large agencies taking people, and then it doesn't work, but they stay on the agency because, you know what, you never know, maybe something is going to happen, and years have been lost. So how can a young conductor ask the relevant question, and what should be those questions if, let's turn the tables a little, a manager says, I am interested? What are the things you should be looking for, Anna?
First of all, you need to do your research, like Joe said. You need to find out that that you fit within the roster and that there's going to be enough time for you in that roster. I think you need to sense there has to be a vibe. As far as staying in the roster that doesn't work, I think the hard thing about this is the sense of not giving them a shot, not giving them a little bit of time. And I think that what I find is that artists tend to get frustrated with their agent, but not have the conversation. Sort of, they feel afraid to confront the agent and say, this is not working. Let's talk, see what's happening. How can we make this work? As far as the agent is concerned, I think that, like any investment, sometimes we put a lot of effort and energy into an artist, and sometimes it's not the right fit. In my case, I find that the reason why relationships don't work between agent and artist is when we have different visions for the career. When the artists have very specific vision of where they want to be, what they want, what repertoire they think is their fit, and the manager thinks is a total different, not marketable. Like if you say, I want to only conduct Wagner, and I feel like you're more fitted to do new music, but you continue to insist that unless it's Wagner, I'm not working, then it becomes a problem, because I know the market, and the market for somebody like you with your nuance, with your technique, fits this repertoire better. But that's when you know it's not working.
Charlotte, do you want to add anything to this? And maybe let me prompt you with a question. Do you discuss a lot with your own clients, their career paths, their repertoire, where you see things going for them in 5-10 years? And what do you do when it's not working?
The time, and all great nuggets of wisdom shared here. I do think that a successful relationship between an artist and artist manager can only work when you are on the same page. So finding these distinguishing questions to do your detective work and figure out, are we the right fit? Are we aligned? Is so important. And what Emmanuel just asked, which can be later in a career, can be stacked in the beginning to say, what are the pitfalls that you would guide me on to avoid when planning programs? Are there particular pieces, composers, and habits or expectations that I should be aware of or avoid with this or that, whether it's opera houses, a certain type of orchestra, whether it's regional or larger or Europe. Every single country in Europe has a different culture of how they come prepared or don't come prepared, or how they rehearse, whether it's 3 rehearsals in America or 6 rehearsals in Germany. Or elsewhere. You know, do the Dutch come prepared to the rehearsals like the Londoners are? Londoners are very good sight readers. How about New Yorkers? They have practiced their parts. They only have 3 rehearsals. They're not going to sit around like a German orchestra who wouldn't mind if you're going to work with them in a sectional like way. If you do that in New York, you're done. You can't do a string sectional in the middle of a rehearsal in New York. So how is this manager going to guide you, and what intel and expertise do they have? If you're going to a place that you are positioned as a music director candidate, do you want to go to, say, Baltimore Symphony on Shostakovich 8? Because that's the only symphony other than 5 that you know. Or are you going to take a different tactic? Well, look at the history. Talk to your friends who are in the business who know. It's like, well, Tamarkanov was the great music director previously at Baltimore Symphony. I would avoid Shostakovich 8 because you're with orchestra musicians that were chosen by him, that have done that piece so many times with him. Maybe you should think about doing Rachmaninoff symphonic dances. So all of these questions are important to ask to a potential manager so you can get behind their head on how they strategize and position artists for success.
Ladies, Anna, Valerie, Joe, please.
Just a very quick addition to that. I think there's one fairly simple human aspect that we sometimes overlook, and that is chemistry and personality. And I was talking to some of my colleagues the other day about the fact that we all need to take more care and attention to an artist's, and also members of staff as well within an organization, of their personalities, because we're expected to take on an artist, and you have a very intense, can be quite an emotional relationship. Okay, you are what conductors are doing is an incredibly emotional art form. You need lots of support when things don't go well, when things do go well, and your manager becomes, I mean, I risk saying friend, because I think that's a whole different conversation, but you know, someone that you can really lean on emotionally. And if the chemistry isn't there between you both, then it will become a very lonely relationship. And going back to when you have your first meeting, when if we were to have a coffee, for example, you would have a coffee with someone, just take a great deal of interest in how your personality works with them. I think it's so important. And I think so many relationships between artists and managers break down because the chemistry isn't right. And it may never have been right, but neither party is bold enough to say something. So I think if you can get that right at the beginning, I think you're onto a winner.
Absolutely agreed. And this is such a crucial relationship for you, and you need to be able to trust everything to them. And will you be proud of and confident in their ability to communicate on your behalf? If an email that they sent to an opera company was accidentally forwarded to you, would you be like, wow, they really just took the words out of my mouth in representing me in a way that I'm really proud to be associated with this person. They get me, they're professional. So that's so crucial.
Yeah, agreed.
Right. I would say, to balance this a little, my first manager was Ronald Wilford. Ronald Wilford was this big guru in the industry, and my first meeting with Ronald, he was really trying to see in almost a provocative way, you know, who I was and how much I would resist to what he was saying. And at the end, he says, well, I think you need a booker. You don't need a manager. And in his eye, that was not very nice, I suppose. And so I told him, well, what do you mean? You know, I said, well, you know, some conductors, they know what they want. Some conductors, they know they don't. And I like to manage conductors that I can tell them what to do and so on and so on. Then he ended up managing me, but also with Judy Janowski and Jonathan Brill in the time. But I had various agents, local agents and so on. And the best agent I ever had are not necessarily the one who gave me right away the most prestigious engagements, but they were the one who understood me and with whom I could even say, listen, I blew it. This didn't work the way I wanted, or actually they didn't like me because I tell you, I did what I had to do and I did it that way. And I ended up in the end, but maybe that's my nature, also managing them and helping them in their own questions about the relevance of what they were doing and so on. So that personal aspect is absolutely fundamental. Ladies, feel free to chime in whenever you want and push the conversation. I would say the field has changed a lot, not only with the relationship between manager, artist, and institutions, but also in what institutions are looking for. When I started my career, I was told, you know, you have to wait a little, you have to do all you can, but you really start being a good conductor when you are 60. And now I am 60, and I'm being told, well, you know, you're great, Emmanuel, but there is this young conductor here that is absolutely extraordinary and very talented. And, you know, we want to see different things. So yes, we will get you, but you have to be a little more patient. How do the three of you feel about the evolution of the industry? And what do you think now is the new path? What are presenters looking for in various areas in the world, and how, when you are a young woman, how to play this? And to be a little more direct, certainly there is this new movement where a lot of institutions and artist agencies are trying to represent women and try to rebalance things. But how can you play that card? Should you play that card? And how to respond to the shift in what the industry is looking for? Charlotte, Joe, Anna?
Yeah. That's a quite big question.
Go for it.
Quite a big question. I'm certainly not going to cover all the answers. I would just say that before I started in the industry, not in the management industry, but I used to work for the recording world when I first started work for 12 years. And when I got to when I was watching concerts and when I'd sort of be around musicians in my youth, and I actually knew some people who worked in management back then as well, there was clearly a huge amount of snobbery within orchestras and within the orchestra's attitude towards conductors. And what I mean by that is, very rarely would they have even had a young conductor anywhere near the orchestra, certainly in parts of Europe and that we can all name. It's changed immeasurably since then for the better.
Not everywhere though.
No, but it's changed. I guess it's changed sufficiently that our industry it doesn't look like it was. But you're right, there are certain markets which are far more favorable to a younger conductor and also to female conductors. I mean, I look after Maren Alsop, and so obviously so her story speaks for itself. But even yesterday, Maren and I were speaking, and you know, she was expressing some sadness at still being a woman in our industry is still has challenges, and she's been doing what she's been doing incredibly for so long. So So there's plenty of work to do, but it's I would hope that with all the growing list of female conductors, including yourselves, coming into our industry, I would hope that it is a more sympathetic and understanding place than it used to be. But as Emmanuel says, there's a hell of a lot of work to be done. And with the Heart Institute and with what Maren does with the Taki Allsop Fellowship, this is great, but actually it needs to come from within the orchestras more. They need to be doing more. It needs to come from within record companies. It needs to come from within organizations themselves and with the staff that they, it's unless there's that sort of sea change, it's not gonna grow as it should. So look, you asked quite a big question, but that's just my brief take on things. I think it's a better place than we were.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in because I have to say that during the last 10 years since we've been doing this, I've seen in some occasions organizations wanting to give opportunity to young women conductors, and their intentions are exactly right, to balance things, but that put them in a position to fail because they give them what's left. They're not artistically looking at what they bring. They give them that extra opera or that extra concert that they don't want to put the other people on. So it's not ideal repertoire, it's not an ideal situation, and you have to figure out a way to succeed within those parameters they're giving you for that fantastic opportunity you got to conduct that orchestra or that opera. So, and what it does is create a barrier even higher because you're not setting up with the best ability and your qualifications or your specific talent. You sort of have to fit within whatever they have left to give you, and it's challenging. It's very proving, and you have to come in and kill it immediately. So while it's better, it's challenging as well. And this is why you need a manager. We're going back to the idea of a manager, because a manager can see those things and tell you this is a good setup and this is not a good setup. I want you to come into this big organization doing this repertoire, not this. This will not make you look good. So that kind of guidance is super crucial as you move into this career.
Right. And I think very often with those topics, if it's not done authentically from the organization, it doesn't work. If it's just to check a box, it's really going to make things even worse. And then those young conductors, or because they are young, because they are female, because they come from diversity, if it fails, it's even harder, not only for her, but for the next woman conductor coming. And so all those things have to be done organically and genuinely. Charlotte, do you have anything to add to that specific topic of the change?
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, with this evolution, the focus has stepped away from the meritocracy that it used to be. And it's very exciting because artists who didn't have the opportunities before, if they weren't men, now have opportunities to be looked at. But as we've discussed here, it's very easy to be engaged for how you look, what your gender is, what the color of your skin is these days. So for better or for worse, the worst part is if the merit isn't there, then you will not be reinvited. And that is not a situation to be in. We represent two artists who are very close to each other, the composer Wynton Marsalis and the conductor Christian Villaume, music director of the Orchestre Nationale de France and other institutions. And in his eagerness as a young conductor years ago when they started their friendship, he would say, "Oh, Wynton, I got this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to go there and this, we're working on this and my manager." And then Wynton listened for about 5-6 minutes. He said, "I have one question for you, Christy. Can you conduct?" Because in the end, that's what it's all about. There's bells and whistles. There's all the things that you can do and learn how to behave, how to put your messaging out there. But in the end, you need to know your craft and you need to be an expert in it, because that ultimately is what's going to continue a career with re-invitations.
And knowing your craft takes time. It takes time.
Yes.
And it takes a year. It takes difficulties. I really, really, the four of you are very, very talented, and there is no question about this. But till you will be totally comfortable in your art, it's going to take years and years and years. It really does. And so, as all of you were saying, doors are not necessarily closed for your whole life, but they can be closed for 10, 15 years. And your ego can be incredibly bruised by those experiences. So that's where the choice of an agent is very important. That's where the trust in the relationship and the communication is very, very important, not falling into those traps. I would like to maybe first ask Valerie, Anna, and Yanan and CJ, if you have any question on any of the things we have touched before.
So I have a question about, sorry, I didn't, okay. I have a question about when, let's say, a younger conductor, when you are getting their first few contracts and they're about to go to their engagements, what kind of things that you advise them? Of course, this is going to be different from person to person, that you already know what you can trust them with, but just generally, of course, conduct well, know everything, and then be professional, those basic things. But are there some other things that you typically advise the younger conductors?
Yes, I mean, I guess it comes down to, I'm stating the obvious here, but every orchestra has a different character. And one of the things that we can bring as artist managers is that relationship with that orchestra, so that when you have an engagement with an orchestra, it's very important that as managers, we would be able to tell you, okay, this orchestra responds well to just let them play through big movements in one. Don't talk too much, don't stop too much. Other orchestras like to work much harder than some. If you're not happy with a certain phrase in the brass, go ahead and work at it until you're absolutely happy. Some orchestras find that annoying, and sort of again, the snobbery is creeping back in. Say, well, what could you possibly tell us about something that we've played, for 40 years? So invaluable experience and knowledge about the orchestra, so that you will arrive, because unfortunately you've got to command the respect from this orchestra within 30 seconds, and it's finished. But you can get it right. You can get it right. So my advice would be to make sure that the manager you're with has given you just ask as many questions as you want, because any advice that you can have and you can be armed with when you arrive will help you a great deal.
Right. And the right thing to say in Paris will be exactly the thing not to say in Marseille or in Chicago. This is absolutely fascinating. I have been doing tours sometimes, and with a certain, for instance, with a singer or something like that, and you have 6 different orchestras, and the experience is vastly different. Although it's the same piece, it's the same singers, and you have to have either a map of how these people work, or your intuition needs to work on this too in the moment. And it takes years to understand this too. So to have some words and some advice before can be very useful. And sometimes you just blew it. I mean, you just missed the mark, and you have to learn how to rebound on this. Anna, you had a question too.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when you're starting and you are sort of your own manager, what you tend to do, or maybe just me, is normally, opportunity that comes, you say yes and you jump on board and you figure it out. And when Anna was talking about, something that's perhaps set for failure, it made me think, is there any red flags or anything that, when one is acting as one's own manager and booker, should consider, perhaps to either say no or ask for a change? Just any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, please, Anna, go, please.
I was just going to say, a lot of this, and this applies to the last question, a lot of this is going to be, you doing the research and seeing who has conducted in those places before, what their resumes are looking like. Like, you got to understand how you fit within the entire season and who they hire. And then if you know anybody that works there, call them up, set up a meeting and ask questions. I don't think that you should never rush to take a contract without doing previous research. It's going to be very shiny at the beginning and you're going to feel really flattered that they're asking, but you got to say, can I get back to you? Always, can I get back to you? And then do your research, call the right people, text your friends and say, have you heard of this person? Have you heard of this orchestra? And then get back to them. But I just think that it is very easy to get excited and not looking at the little details.
I would like to just add, that's absolutely spot on, Anna. I completely agree. Two important things. I believe it all comes down to repertoire, actually. And I learned to my peril when I was a young manager. I would be so excited that one of my young conductors had an engagement. And of course, without real, and I'm the first to admit, without having the conversation, actually, it's great. Yes, you'd like to have a week with this orchestra, but what you'd actually like is to be re-invited. That's what you want to start a relationship. That's what it's all about. And if you go with the wrong repertoire, for whatever reason, maybe it's not your strength, and you don't get re-invited. Well, in those cases, it was no one else's fault but mine. And I think if you're managing yourself, please be very, very careful and don't get seduced by, hey, there's this great orchestra, they want me. It's much better that you wait so that you go there, you conduct the repertoire you're genuinely comfortable with. If there's a piece that they ask you to do that you thought, okay, yeah, I think I can do that, then ask them when they last performed it. I think that's a really fundamental question. And that will tell you a lot. That will tell you a lot. If it's a piece that they say, oh yeah, we do it every other season. For me, that is a bit of a red flag. Because often then the orchestra will know how they want to play it. And if you go in and start making these grand changes, which in my book is, that's what you're there for. You should be allowed to make these changes. That can often get you in hot water. So I think that was repertoire is everything, and finding out when they last performed a piece can really help.
Very useful. Thank you. Never would have thought any of those answers. So great.
Valerie, you had CJ, you have a question.
CJ had a question.
May I ask, like, nowadays I know this social media things is, I'm wondering how you guys think about the social media. Is that important or is it okay? And how should we be careful to do this? Like, what is not proper to put there or something, like in your experience? Yeah.
Question, CJ. I think it is important to have social media presence. It's not essential to be viral. It's not important to post every other day, but it is important to get on the bandwagon and to do it sooner than later. And to have a regular presence of the habit of posting. You post maybe once or twice a month, or 3 or 4 times a month, whatever frequency, you decide what works for you. But what you don't want is for someone to search you. Like Emmanuel said, so many people are just skipping the line of checking in with management or learning about talent for management. And they're just like, all right, I want to look at, these Heart Institute women candidates. Let me just look up their YouTube videos. Okay, great. Let me Google them. Oh, they don't have a website. Oh, they don't even have a Facebook page. All right, let's pick the one that has 1,200 followers. It's not about a great number of followers. It's just about having an imprint. So it's not about the frequency. It's just about getting it started and regularly maintaining it. And with regard to what you can put whatever you want.
Right. With the caveat that if someone is looking for a conductor or a singer, and needs to make a decision rapidly, you need to control what is online of you singing or conducting. That's going to be your face. And that you might be happy because it's with a professional orchestra, but that passage is not great. And I am going to make an opinion, but I guarantee you, in 30 seconds about your conducting, by the excerpts I'm going to watch online.
Yes,
So
don't
you
put,
need
55 minutes of a Mahler symphony. Just put it in
Yeah.
little snippets, and maybe
And
don't
the
even
good
put a Mahler
ones.
symphony. But yes, because no one has the attention span to watch Mahler 8. But if you're putting a little bit of the Adagietto or Blumina or whatever, it's just enough. And then they can look at the types of concerts, what repertoire you're conducting, where you are, and they will take time to call all the people at those places if they're really thorough. So this is a small business. And when you think about the opportunities that you presently have, you want to maximize those opportunities. You want to build on those relationships because these are your people. This is your circle of supporters. Everyone wants you to succeed. This is not about just getting management, as we've discussed. It's about building a network of people who are influencers who believe in your talent, because those are the people who are being called by someone who's looking for a candidate or to give you an opportunity. They'll just check with all the people who have had you in the past. So we want to nurture that and build on that.
That's brilliant. And I would just add one thing. I so agree with everything you said there, Charlotte. And just to expand a bit on the video content, choosing a short clip is fundamental. Also, try and choose a clip of you not looking at the score. Try and choose a clip of you showing a connection with the musicians. Because, going back to the sort of meetings where we watch lots of videos of people, the one thing that we always look out for is, well, actually, every conductor has their own style. You can't say, oh, I'm not sure I like the style. That's not a decision for you as a manager to make. What's important is this artist connecting with the musicians? Are they wanting to follow that conductor? Are they swept along by the inspiration of the conductor? So choosing an extract that really shows you as a collaborative musician and not conducting with your eyes closed in the throngs of a slow Rachmaninoff movement. I think that's really important. It does matter.
Mm-hmm. Pick those excerpts and make sure they represent you well. And it's better to have nothing than something bad, because our judgment is made so quickly. Just we are getting toward the end of the public part of the conversation. I would have loved to talk about conducting opera, representing opera conductors versus symphony conductors. I don't think that divide makes any sense, but this is a reality of our industry. For me, a good conductor needs to be able to do both. And I hear right away if a conductor is conducting only symphonic and he doesn't have the experience of a Rosenkavalier, of a Carmen, and vice versa. I would like to move that. So somehow our industry has created that huge divide, and very few of us can be at the same level on both fronts. Our industry, as one of you was saying earlier, also is morphing and probably shrinking. So Charlotte, Anna, Joe, and I will be okay. Are these ladies going to be okay? How do you see our classical industry in the next 10, 20, 30 years? And you have 1.5 minutes to answer that very simply.
Emmanuel.
I mean, I can speak for opera because I'm more immersed in opera. I've been for 20 years, so I'll tell you that it is shrinking. There is a lot of opportunity for new works and development of new works. There's a new movement of artists producing their own works and creating multidisciplinary works that are not living within the opera or the symphonic or the dance. It just kind of like it lives within multiple disciplines, and it's a great opportunity to work with small producing organizations to sort of create impactful work. It takes you to the larger organizations, but you got to start creating that sense of storytelling in opera at a small level, so you can grow into the bigger organizations.
Right. Very true. Joe, 20 seconds to add something to this.
I
Are you optimistic?
No, am I what?
Optimistic for the future of.
Well, I just actually wanted to ask more about the opera and symphonic thing. I would say that it's much easier to try, if you want to do both in your career, is to try and do both at the beginning, before anyone makes their own judgment of or pigeonhole of what kind of conductor you are, because it's really hard if after 20 years on the concert stage you suddenly say you want to start conducting Puccini. It's a really tough transition to make. So if you're able to get experience in both at the start, I think that will stand you in really good stead. And the other question I just don't have time to answer now. But
I definitely.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. It's the people we all are.
Okay, Charlotte, Anna, Joe, thank you so much. This was absolutely fascinating. I actually learned a lot, and that's the end of the public session. And now we're going to talk in private and say exactly the opposite of what we just said to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.